Hey everybody, this is Spasmodic, and welcome to the first episode of Doom 2016 Without Jumping. We start with the UAC. Now for those of you who watched my introductory video to this series/endeavor, you probably have a decent idea as to what's going on in this video and why. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend giving it a look, but since you're already here, a bit of backstory can't hurt. When I first thought of trying to finish Doom without jumping, I knew I couldn't do it without additional tools. That is, I needed runes, weapons, and upgrades, otherwise it couldn't be done. So initially, I finished the UAC with all of these tools. It was nice to see that it was possible to finish the level without jumping, but in the interest of being thorough, I wanted to see how far I could get with nothing but a pistol. That seemed more in the spirit of what I wanted to do, and more in line with what people think of when they hear no jumping. And as it turns out, to my immense surprise, I got pretty darn far. All the way to the end, as a matter of fact, and I would like to show you how I did it, and how you can do it too. So this is part story, part tutorial. So the moment I stepped out onto the surface of Mars, I thought back to previous no-jump projects that I've completed, and wondered how I could apply the things I learned in those games to Doom. If you didn't know, I have finished Halo 1 and Half-Life 2 without jumping, and while working on those projects, I came up with 3 rules to tackle and hopefully solve any problem I was faced with. Number 1, stretch the physics as far as they will go. Number 2, use whatever tools you have to the max. And number 3, attack each problem where it is weakest. So how could I take advantage of the physics in Doom? The main edge I had was my speed. Combining speed with a sloped surface, suddenly momentum has somewhere to go. This was a way to take advantage of certain environments in the game and gain height. Moving on to the tools available to me, there wasn't much. You can interact with the objects in Doom to a degree, but not to the ridiculous extent that you can in Half-Life 2, so they weren't particularly on my radar. The major tool at my disposal was the ledge grabbing mechanic in the game, seen here, and that's all I was working with. Then I just had to find some obstacles and subsequently locate their weak spots. Finding a problem's weak spot isn't particularly difficult. It's a quick and usually very obvious process of elimination. For instance, crossing this gap leads to the next part of the mission. Now in many cases, you gain a lot by exploring the environment around you, like traveling down to this section of the mission. It's never a bad idea to explore the map and learn more about it. But in this case, the solution to this obstacle is this small ledge here. This is where this problem is weakest, so that's what I focused on. Every problem has a weak spot. That being said, with nothing but a pistol, the problems in this game felt incredibly resilient at first glance, like dropping down to collect the blue key. Even before I had entered this pit, I felt like there was nothing I could do. It's in these moments when a dash of creativity never goes amiss. I started thinking about everything in this area and I realized there's a bunch of zombies walking around in the area before. The advantage here is that you can glory kill enemies from a distance. So I nabbed myself a zombie, led him close to the edge by the blue key, shot him a couple times to stagger him, and when I activated the glory kill, I was out of the pit. You see, Doom Guy jumps to whatever he's about to punch or stomp into ribbons. You don't have to be parallel to a demon. As long as you're close enough, height isn't a factor, and this allowed me to scale the pit. But, as cool as this is, there was a problem. The zombie is actually very uncooperative. He tends to walk away from the ledge after you drop down, so I had to jump back up and position him, then shoot him, then glory kill, all while I had the blue key. Setting him up, grabbing the key, then initiating the glory kill, I don't know if that's possible. It's certainly not reliable. Plus, there's also a rune upgrade that allows you to lunge into a glory kill from further away. I didn't use that ability to film this clip, but I didn't want that thought to even enter someone's head. It was a neat discovery all around though. I had a new mechanic in my back pocket. I was also out of the pit, so I didn't think about any of this at the time. I was just giddy and excited to tackle the rest of the level, so I moved on. How you actually get out of the pit is almost insulting, it's so easy. You just run at this corner and you climb up. I didn't know whether to be happy or depressed when I discovered this, but I decided not to dwell and proceeded to the mission. The next obstacle is this gap I mentioned earlier, and it really should have struck me at this juncture just how insane ledge grabbing can be, because this highlights what I'm talking about fairly well. As I said, there's a little section of the wall here that you can stand on, and from here, you just have to run off and climb up the opposing ledge. Then came the task of trying to reach the final area. I managed this fairly easily with the Gauss cannon, but I couldn't see how it could be done without it. This is where a little map knowledge came in handy. You start by walking up the left side of this area, and then you climb this ledge, which is simple. Now instead of moving forward at this point, you ascend this little rock face to your left. Once you reach the top, you simply walk across this gap, and voila, you're in the final area. Of course, then the problem is, you're in the final area. When I looked at the end structure from the ground, the thought of reaching the top with basically nothing was insane. Thankfully, there were things I could eliminate immediately. This area to the left of the structure, for example, is useless, so I narrowed my focus to this area. The first step is to get on top of this platform here, and it's surprisingly easy. You just run at this beam in the middle, and you're up. Then, you can run across this gap and reach this platform, and this is where I finally understood how ridiculous ledge grabbing truly is. Getting on top of this box can be a little finicky, but if you take care, it's not too difficult to get on top of. I had no ideas beyond this, so I just looked up, ran at the wall, and somehow, Doomguy hoisted himself up from what felt like an impossibly low spot. Never let it be said that banging your head against a wall can't yield solutions to problems. I couldn't believe it when this happened. I was under the impression the entire time that I had to be very close to a ledge in order to climb it, but this proved that as long as I was reasonably close, and I hopped off the ground slightly, I just had to aim high enough, basically, and Doomguy handled the rest. From here, I was initially playing around with this canister, which you can step on briefly, and it gives you enough height to climb on top of this box. But as I later discovered, you need only wedge yourself into this corner, and you're on top of the box. Then finally, when I was on top of the box, I wondered how I would make the climb to the top. It felt like I had no more tools available to me, until I thought to myself, what if I walk off the box? I did, and there I was, on top of the structure. And from here, you can simply walk to the end of the level. And that is how you finish the UAC without jumping. So I'm really glad that I took the time to figure this stuff out, not only because it made the project feel more polished, but because it made levels later in the game possible. You will really see this at work when I get to the Argent facility destroyed, that's the main one, but until then, we have a bit more ground to cover. Next time, I'll be showing you how to finish resource operations without jumping. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Spaz out.